3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Lots to get to today. Man, we are guest heavy, and not just guest heavy. We're like super duper big time guest heavy. That's what the kids say.
Swingers. That's right. Yeah. Well, some of them maybe
if they're from the 60s or 70s, maybe
they just might not be kids anymore.
It depends on how you feel. You're a kid at heart, man. Young at heart.
That's true.
Come on. I mean, I'm 54 going on 9.
They're just not getting the kids discount whenever they go to Scotty's over in Blythewood.
Nah, you get the grandparent discount too. I'm not a grandparent yet. Not that there's anything wrong with that if I were. I look forward to that day.
You're just not yet.
Not rushing anyone to make that happen. That's not my department, man.
You've done your part.
Yes,
honestly, you have done your part.
That's right. It's up to somebody else at this point. I'm just here. How you doing?
I'm fantastic.
I did not watch all of the first round of the NBA draft, but I did watch up until just past when Colin Murray-Boyles was taken at number 9.
Which is good because I'm going to quiz you on some of the players who got drafted. It's a surprise quiz, so don't you go be looking at that draft order, and you're just going to tell me if those people are real or not. Because I know there's a couple you're not going to be able to tell.
I think even with some of the foreign names that are going to be in it, a couple of the French dudes and some other European players, I am 90-ish% confident in myself, which probably means more like 70-ish.
So if you go 1 for 4 on this thing, it's going to be even funnier.
Yeah, I don't know. I tried to look. I'm not going to lie. Okay, I'm not going to lie to my audience. I'm not going to lie to you, my co-host. The only reason I paid even more attention to this draft is because someone who went to high school, less than 10 minutes from where I live, and then played at my alma mater, it was going to get drafted pretty high.
Yes.
It's not that I don't care.
But there's a heightened interest.
But the level of interest can certainly, be impacted by those who will be chosen. And so in that respect, I did pay more attention last night. Happy for Colin. You nailed it. I say nailed it, but you certainly had the Raptors as one of the 5 best fits for him. And is it Jonathan Givony that reports for ESPN on the draft and on a lot of NBA stuff, especially the personnel side of things, mentioned that apparently several teams began to call Toronto and see if they were interested in moving out of that 9 slot so that that particular team, whoever it may have been, or teams, could take Colin. And Toronto said, "No, we're good, man. This is who we want."
That was their guy all along.
There you go. And I say I feel kind of bad for Colin in a funny way. By now, probably a lot of you, I didn't see it happen. I don't know. I guess I just turned away for a second or something. I'm not sure which camera angles may have had it. I was watching the ABC broadcast, so I don't know if it was the NBA TV broadcast, but, Colin said a word you can't say on television, but has had to let everybody know, man, I said that in a good way.
When I saw it, because I missed it too, and I went back and saw it, I was like, okay, that's nothing.
Yeah, but some people, like this morning on Dan Patrick, they were like, well, I guess he wasn't happy about going to Toronto. And I was like, no, dude, that's not what it was. And everybody's talked about it. Now, it doesn't matter. That'll all blow over. The Raptors know. And Colin said, hey, listen, that was the first team I worked out for. I had it, I felt, in so many words, he said, I felt great about them. They liked me. I think that was an expletive that was said in a moment of like wondrous relief.
Yes.
And I'm good with that.
And it's probably overrun with emotion. I mean, he just got taken in the top 10 of the NBA draft.
You could tell, excuse me, that he, I guess they told him, somebody told him something, and there was a look on his face of like, oh, it's my turn now. And you could just tell. You could tell. It's great. He's the second highest Gamecock men's basketball player ever taken in the NBA draft. And we'll talk a lot about that. But to come back around to it, because we just had fun with language, and I don't want to bury the lead, we'll have 2 big-time Gamecock men's basketball guests on today's program. First, the one and only Judge Casey Manning will be with us here in studio coming up in about a half hour.
Yes.
We love the judge. He's an amazing human being. And, I mean, heck, if he just wanted to come in and talk about, I could almost talk with Casey, kind of like we talked and joke sometimes about, like, we could watch, Shaq and Chuck and Kenny and Ernie talk about paint drying and the merits of how you watch paint dry.
And how entertaining that would be.
I could do that with Casey. But we will talk basketball with Casey, including some looking back to some of the first-round picks from his era of Carolina men's basketball and what he thinks it means for Colin to have been chosen last night. And then the man who recruited and coached Colin Murray Boyles for a couple of years at South Carolina, Lamont Paris, will be with Elijah and me coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. So we look forward to talking to both of those men about what this means. I know it's not been the most ideal run for Lamont so far in Columbia. Yes, there's been an NCAA tournament appearance and a really good year, but maybe sandwiched in between a couple of years that he would like to change just a little bit. But at the same time, we've got, 2 draft picks and 2 local guys at that in Gigi and Colin. So it's a lot to look forward to for Carolina basketball in terms of how the recruiting is going. But we'll talk with Coach coming up in just a little bit. I see Judge Manning outside right now, and I can't go let him in. You want to go let him in, and I'll vamp for a second? Yeah, go do that.
Talk about how fun.
I thought he was coming. He's a little early, which means that's great. He's very punctual. You go ahead. He's a little early, and we have a security guard outside that lets people in if we're not here in time, or if they're there whenever. And Casey is calling me right now, letting me. he's calling, but Elijah is going to get him, so we'll be good. But Casey is here, ready to talk Carolina basketball. In between, we'll have today's start bench drop. It is NBA themed, and it's not only NBA themed; it is NBA first pick of the draft themed. So where might we take you with that? Who knows? But that's we'll have that for you coming up in just a minute. And Manny Navarro, who covers college football for The Athletic, has put out a top 25 list of the best players in the Southeastern Conference. And the Gamecocks figure prominently in that. So we'll have that for you coming up in a little bit, too. And there's some good stuff in there. We'll get into a few other things going on around college basketball and college football, too. So plenty to do on today's program. We didn't get into that NFL story yesterday, and quite frankly, I'm okay with that because, again, it's one of those stories that kind of makes your head hurt.
It's dense.
It's
very dense.
But it is an interesting story, again, about potential collusion. Maybe we should ask Judge Manning about that. How many cases did he ever hear on someone trying to collude? We'll see.
That's a good question. This is his expertise.
Yeah. Well, like we said, we can talk to the judge about almost anything. Including his amazing ability while he's here. Hey, Judge, we'll get you in a second, I promise. His amazing ability as a South Carolinian to nail the accents of people and where they're from in the state. When he first met my wife, I don't even know, 20 years ago, I'm not sure. He looks at, where they meet each other and speak, right? And Casey's from the PD area, right? Where are you from? Dillon, yeah. So over that way. And he looks at my wife and he goes, Loris? And she says, well, Greensea, which is about 2 miles away.
That's pretty
and I was
remarkable.
like, what?
That's pretty impressive.
How'd you do that? But I guess, Dillon and Mullins and Marion and Loris and North Myrtle Beach and all those places, Conway, kind of just eventually tie into one another. But I was like, dang.
That's borderline magic.
Hey, well, he's Casey Manning, so that's what he does.
Pulls it off.
So we'll get into those things for you too. But really, one other thing that I just want to get off my chest. Scott Van Pelt did a great job with this last night. As we told y'all, there were several trades that have already been made in the NBA, and so there were some draft picks that were going to have already been moved. But because the league year doesn't officially begin until the end of next week, you can't make them official. Like, you can go ahead and do it, but you can't make them official. And so several guys last night were drafted technically by teams that everybody knows they'll never play for.
Like, come on, Malawach getting drafted by the Rockets right after Colin.
Right.
But he's going to play for the Phoenix
He's going to play in Phoenix. And it's like, and SVP was right. Like, let them have their moment with the team that they're going to play for. Why do this knowing full well? And the thing is, like, Adam Silver is a good commissioner. Just press the button that says this is silly, or just allow it to, like, you know what?
Change the official day of the league calendar.
Yeah, I mean, make it the day the draft starts, or make it 48 hours after the conclusion of the finals, or 48 hours before the draft. Just something so that these young men and their families don't have this awkward standing around. Here's me shaking the commissioner's hand, even though I'm never going to play for this team. Or maybe you do one day. I don't know. I mean, there's trades that still happen once you become a player.
Right.
But it's just silly. And it's not the same as when you and I talked about it this morning. It's not the same as when Eli was drafted by the Chargers. Archie and the Mannings said, don't draft him because he's not going to play for you. But they did it anyway.
It was their decision to pout their way out of that that draft pick.
Yeah. So, but last night, it's like, some of these guys aren't going to play for these teams.
My biggest gripe about that is that it's so confusing for the viewer.
Right.
For the fan watching.
Right.
I mean, you go up, like, use the Malawach example. Like, come on, Malawach puts on the Rockets hat. And for somebody who may not, they can say it once on the broadcast. They might have, like, the little logo there. But when you're going back and you're looking, like, oh, yeah, the Rockets took Malawach. That's going to fit really nice. And it's like, oh, wait, duh. That was the Durant trade. Or a couple of, picks later on, right? When they announce the trades. Like in the NFL, if somebody announces a trade in the draft in terms of swapping picks.
Right.
The TV broadcast will pull up the logo of the team that is now picking as opposed to the team that was picking, right? They don't even do that in the NBA.
No, they don't.
So the Grizzlies...
Because the league year hadn't started. You can't officially do it.
So the Grizzlies technically had, like, the 16th pick, and they swapped with Portland for the 11. Meanwhile, it still says Portland's making this pick right here. Yeah. Even though, and all they'll do is they'll have Shams Charania up there talking about, hey, this trade has been made. But they won't put it on the graphic. And the player's going to put on the hat of the team that drafted him, not the team that he's going to play for. And it ultimately becomes just such an exhausting viewership experience.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that last night, or I guess technically tonight if there's more trades, but this draft will be the last time that silliness occurs. They'll change that. They'll go, our bad.
I've been hoping for this ever since I started watching the NBA draft, which has been a long time.
I think they'll change it. Colin Murray-Boyles goes number 9 to Toronto. Judge Casey Manning saw him play all of his games at South Carolina and has seen him growing up here in Columbia. We'll get Judge's take on that and more of the picks that were made when he was playing for Frank McGuire in the Gamecocks. Lots to do. And again, Lamont Paris coming up later on in the 5 o'clock hour. So a busy summertime Carolina basketball day as Colin Murray-Boyles goes in the top 10. You're listening to the Postgame Show. All right, it's another hot one across the Midlands of South Carolina, and you are not jumping in your own backyard pool. Well, if you are, good for you, because you have one. If you don't, time to call the folks at Griffin Pools and Spas and make that backyard pool dream a summertime and year-round reality. Because, hey, you know what? Here in the Midlands, you can swim a lot. But right now, when it's really hot, that's what you want to go out and do. The kids will have fun. You'll have fun. It's a great way to keep them busy for a while. Call Griffin Pools and Spas. Stop in and see them. Steps away from the Lake Murray Dam in Lexington, where they've been for decades, helping families all across the area, as I said, make those backyard dreams come true. If you want just a nice little something to jump into, or you want something that is more resort-like, anything you want, they can help you make it happen. Or if you want to add things on, like a hot tub or a spa, they can do that for you too. Plus all the accessories you need, even cooking accessories in there. So much. Griffin Pools and Spas, again, in Lexington and online at griffinpoolsandspas.com. All right, 18 minutes after 3 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips, and now alongside us is the one and only Judge Casey Manning, who, of course, played at South Carolina and has been how many years now? I mean, I know it's a lot, but I don't want to be one of those guys that, like, says something in here. Pull up a little bit more there, and there you go. How many
Are you
years?
trying to age me?
No. Well, I mean, I just aged myself a minute ago when I said I was 54 going on 9. So
32 years.
Wow.
32.
Does it feel like 32 years?
It feels like 74.
Okay.
No, it's been a wonderful 32 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say how much it has meant to me and so many other people.
Yeah. Let's go to last night, and we'll jump around with you because we'll keep you in here for a while if you don't mind. It was a rough year, but Colin had a fantastic season, and this now for Lamont is going to be 2 NBA draft picks of local Columbia kids in 3 seasons. So there's a give and a take, a good and a bad, but in terms of what this means for a top 10 pick in this program right now, how big a deal is this?
It's a huge deal. It's not just big, it's huge. As big as it comes because considering we only won 12 games last year. But he was brightest spot on the floor. And a little bit more help here or there. He would have averaged more than 16.6 points a game and 8.8 rebounds a game, I think it was. But after about the first 12 games or so, teams figured out if we stopped Colin Murray balls, we stopped the Gamecocks. So, I mean, he was double and triple teamed so many times, yet he was still so efficient at everything he did.
When you look at his game, what initially, and I've known you've known his family and his for a long time, so you've seen him coming up. But once he got to this level, to the SEC level, what immediately let you know, perhaps as an expert, all right, this is something different?
His calmness, how calm and measured he was, and became even more so as time went by. Rarely got upset about anything, never screamed at a teammate. He'd go over, hug him, and try to show him what you need to do the next time. He was always like a coach on the floor, to be honest with you. But I think it was between the ears that made the big difference. His mental capacity, his knowledge of the game, and how you should play the game, very coachable. He listened to everything like a sponge. He took in everything that the coaching staff tried to tell him, and he profited from that.
Right.
Yeah, he certainly did. But one of my favorite things about him, Judge, is watching him play at his size. I mean, at the college game, you can get away with me playing him at center or power forward, but he is such a good passer. Like, there's not a lot of teams that you see in the SEC where the best passer on the team isn't your point guard, but it's one of your big men. I think his ability to get other people involved and make everybody around him better is what makes him perfectly suitable for the next level.
I think he was drafted as a point forward, which is very important.
Yeah.
That means you can play almost any position on the floor. He can bring the ball up, as he did many times, and he can defend literally from 1 to 5. I can think of like about 20 or 30 times, at least 20, when he got stuck playing the opposing team's point guard, and the point guard could not get by him or around him. So it's defensive prowess, more so than anything else, made him go at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, he guarded Jeremiah Fears. I remember the game at Oklahoma. There were a couple times where they would try to get Colin on Fears because Fears got to the free throw line just so many times last year. And Colin a couple times has kept him out of the paint. And I remember, I think that was one of the first moments where I was like, oh, he really can guard every position on the floor.
And not only guard every position, but guard it well.
Right.
One of the knocks on Colin has, and this is a top 10 pick, so you have to take these things with a certain grain of salt, Judge, is his shooting. But Elijah, and listen, Elijah is way more basketball savvy than I will ever be. But we were going over a lot of things yesterday, including his true shooting percentage, which is amongst the highest of any draft pick last night. So when you look at him shoot, what do you like? What is it maybe that you can help us see that NBA scouts maybe say, all right, that's problematic, because the numbers maybe tell a couple of stories?
Well, I think he didn't shoot from the outside. Like, he maybe took 15 threes, I'm guessing, off the top of my head last year. He made 4 or 5. But if you remember when we went to the Bahamas, when he came in as a freshman, he shot fantastic from behind the arc. Then he had mono that set him back a little bit. But just like so many other players I can think of, for example, Magic Johnson could not shoot the 3 when he first went into the league. But he developed his ability to do that. And through Colin's hard work, I think he'll be able to do anything he's asked to do. That is, shoot the 3, the mid-range jump shot. He took a few more this year than he did his freshman year. But I think the ceiling for Colin is unlimited.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because he just can do so many different things out on the floor, too. I think one thing I wanted to ask you as well, because I think it took a lot of Carolina fans by surprise last year whenever he came back from mono and then SEC play starts and he's automatically in the starting lineup, and you realize pretty quickly might be the best player on the floor in almost any game you play in. When was kind of the first moment, not this last year, but the NCAA tournament run, when you kind of realized, oh, wait, he's maybe better in this environment than expected?
I think his ability to play with other players, the unselfishness that he exhibited, the understanding of where he should be positioning on the floor, and he never tried to do anything just for Colin Murray balls. A consummate team player. He understood the game well enough. Well, I'll wait until Talon Cooper moves over 2 more feet before I move. I'll wait until B.J. Mack backs out and goes to the corner for a 3, and then I'll move. His understanding of the total picture of the game is what attracted me to his ability to do what he's done the last 2 years.
Judge Casey Manning with us here in the studio. Colin Murray-Boyles going number 9 last night to the Toronto Raptors. I want to take you back because you mentioned the mid-range jumper, and so many, I think, coaches, especially in the collegiate ranks, want the opponent to shoot the mid-range. It seems to have become one of the harder shots. It seems like a lot more coaches, from an offensive perspective, would rather their guys take threes than that, say, 17-footer, especially a contested 17-footer. Do you like that Colin can make more of those? Is that going to be something that's maybe a little hidden in terms of what he does to help the Raptors at the next level?
I think very well said. I mean, the Golden State Warriors changed the three-point shooting concept of the whole league because they hit so many. And if you watch the latest NBA Finals when Oklahoma City played Indiana, it seemed like everybody was able to shoot the three. But it's the mid-range shot that's still critical. There's a reason why you have tall people on basketball teams. The closer to the basket, the more likely you're going to make that shot.
Right.
And although there's been a proliferation of like shooting threes by every team, you cannot discount the value of a mid-range shot because, you know, you take a few steps to the right or you come off a pick and you're like right there at the free throw line or you're right there maybe at the 18-foot line. The ability to knock down that shot will grow. That is, the value of that ability will grow as time goes by.
Now, Judge, I think Colin was the 8th Gamecock ever taken in the first round of the NBA draft. And I think you've played with more than half of the 8 that's on that list. Does anything Colin do remind you of any of the players that you played with that ended up making an impact at the next level?
Probably Alex English, as strange as that may seem. No wasted effort. Alex was great at the mid-range shot, and he had the ability just to go up and shoot it, but no wasted effort. Rarely did you see Colin go out of his way or waste energy. The ability to preserve energy by spacing yourself in a certain position on the floor reminds me of Alex English, actually, and I think you'll see more of that as time goes by when he plays for the Raptors.
What do you look at from Lamont's perspective in terms of the impact on Colin and the way that Lamont teaches, the system that he brought? I don't always want to call it the Wisconsin system, but let's face it, he was in that for a long time, and it was quite successful. What has that done when you know of Colin as a younger player, a high school player, and you saw that transition under Lamont? What has that done for him?
I think it expanded his concept of the game. As I said a moment ago, positioning on the floor, when to move left, when to move right, when to back up, when to go in. I think I've watched him grow because of Lamont teaching that to him since he arrived as a freshman. And it's not just where I am, it's where everybody else is on the floor. And I think it's the global approach that has helped Colin Murray-Boyles, that is, that Paris has helped Colin Murray-Boyles understand the game that much more.
Well, and Elijah and I have talked about it a lot in a bunch of sports, but especially in football, and you just applied it to basketball. I know what I'm supposed to do. If I also know what you're supposed to do, that's going to make me a better player, and I can help make you a better player. Was that always in him?
I think so. I think Lamont helped bring more of that out of him by doing so. It's not just knowing what the 1, 2, and 3 are supposed to do. It's knowing what all 5 players are supposed to be and where they are. And when you're on the floor and you know that the 3 is a little bit out of position, you got to move around a little bit to create more space for yourself or for the 4 or 5 position. And it's understanding the total concept of the game that I think has helped him become the player that he is.
Judge Casey Manning with us here in studio. Judge is going to hang out for a little bit longer. We'll continue talking about Colin, and Elijah's already gotten one shot in there on the McGuire days with Judge, and we'll do some more of that for you too. And we may get into other stuff around the state of South Carolina. I don't know. I mean, now that he's here, right? We got him, so we'll find out. Judge Casey Manning in studio on this Thursday. It's the Postgame Show. Homeowners looking to make some home improvements, maybe consolidate some high-interest debt. Might be time for you to get in touch with the great pros at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union and look into a home equity line of credit. Great option for a lot of their members. They're local. They're not-for-profit. They've been in the Midlands for nearly 90 years, and their home equity loans can offer you great low rates, plus you pay lower closing costs and application fees than you do with the big banks. And when you unlock your home's equity, you can access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period to assist with all of your needs and goals. As the family grows, maybe it's time for another bathroom for the kids so they're not fighting over each other before school, or maybe you want to put a pool out back. Maybe it's time to turn that 90s kitchen into a today kitchen. Hey, your house, what do you need to do? You figure that out. Apply today at palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are members. We love the service. Think you will too. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. .334 on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. We are thrilled to be joined in studio by Judge Casey Manning, the longtime color analyst for Carolina basketball. Of course, played for Coach McGuire, and longtime judge here in Richland County. Before we come back to some hoops, we were just talking off air, so I want you to share some of this because I just asked you. We hadn't seen each other in a while. We're just catching up a little bit, but I asked you what you're up to, and
I said 6-200.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, you did. That's right. Which was good. That's very Casey Manning, which I appreciated. But the other thing I asked you that you were up to is pretty cool. So let's tell people about that.
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer since, I wanted to be a writer in 9th grade. Then in 10th grade, I said, wait a minute, I got to find a handle. Then 10th grade, I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. And the second to the last case I tried as a lawyer was in federal court. And nobody gave me a chance to win the case, but I was successful in getting a not guilty verdict. And I have a transcript of that trial, and I plan to write a book about it. I always plan to write a book about it, and I'm getting around to that. I've been slow about it. I tell my kids, I said, well, if I write it, I write it. If I don't, I'm not worried about it. But it was a very interesting trial, and that's what I like to do. Like, why did I do tactics, trial strategy, how hard do you have to work to prepare for something? That's what I intend to go into with this book.
Yeah. Do you want us to keep on you? Like, should we have you on once a month and say, hey, Judge, how's the book coming? And that way you're going to do it? Or would that help?
No, I intend to do it. It might help.
Should we have Derek do that next season, Judge?
It'll be soon.
Jay and Elijah texted, how's the book? Something like that.
I get that a lot of times, especially from my kids. Well, when are you going to write it? I'll get around to it. Like I said, it's halfway written because I have a transcript of the trial. And it's a case that no one gave me a chance to win, actually. And it was one of those cases that I just told you off there. I didn't see how I could lose this particular case. But it was a result of years of preparation, practice, and experience. And I got a wonderful result for my client.
Who was the first person that said Casey Manning should become a judge? Was it Casey Manning, or was it somebody that came to you?
No, it was actually a friend of mine, Dupree Miller. He was a solicitor down in the 4th Circuit from Bennettsville, and he was running for the Board of Trustees, okay? This is 35, maybe 40 years ago. And he said, Casey, I was working as an assistant attorney general at the time. He said, a couple of legislators. My father was on the board. Can you do anything to help me be on the board of trustees? So I knew a couple of people, and I went over at the State House with Dupree Miller a couple of times. And as a result of that, people began to ask me, what are you doing here? What do you want? I said, I'm here helping my good friend Dupree Miller. I said, wait a minute. You must want something. What is it? And I began to get questions about, do you want to be a judge? It hadn't really occurred to me. But that was the impetus, because I was helping somebody else try to get on the Board of Trustees. Everybody thought I personally wanted something, and it led to people pushing me to run for the job as a judge.
And you liked it? You look good in the robe?
Well, thank you. I've been told that a couple of times.
No, I've seen the pictures. Thankfully, I was never in the courtroom. Like in a good way, or for me, a good way.
Well, yeah. And, I would say this about judges. This is a difficult job. I like to kid people, say, have you ever heard of anyone say, I want to grow up to be a Pontius Pilate? No. But it's a very meaningful, rewarding, worthwhile job, and it's not an easy one, I can tell you.
I believe that.
Were you more intimidating as a judge than Frank McGuire was as a basketball coach?
Ooh.
Well, that's a question you have to ask somebody else to answer. Some people would say yes. I've had lawyers come to me and say, you're the first judge that ever made me cry. But it wasn't out of mean-spiritedness or anything. It was a way to try to help them. And Coach McGuire, he was very subtle in how he approached things. And people would know he was mad when he got up and sort of fixed his cufflinks on the sideline. Or he would tell a player to go say something to the referee that I can't repeat. Probably he was more intimidating as a coach than I was.
Wait. So he would send a player to say something that would he say it once and then one of you guys would need to go say it again? Or is this so that Coach wouldn't get a tee?
It's a great example. Like he told Bobby Carver, go tell this particular referee so-and-so. And Carver goes to tell the referee what Coach had asked him to do. And the ref stopped Carver and said, I know, Frank thinks I'm a so-and-so. So, he did that a lot.
Yeah. What was it like being recruited by that staff and becoming part of of such a legendary program?
Well, it was very interesting because, be honest with you, my first choice was Davison College.
Okay.
Lefty Drizel was at Davison, and I like Davison. And but in 1969, Lefty left Davison to go take the job at Maryland, and he offered me a scholarship at Maryland. But you know, if I'm going to go to Maryland or someplace else, I might as well come to South Carolina. And be honest with you, I really love Bobby Robbins, who was the coach at Clemson at the time. But in 1969, Clemson had one course in political science. That was Political Science 101. Now you can get a degree from Clemson in political science. So picking a school wasn't just picking a school. It was picking a school that would lead you to do what you wanted to do for the rest of your life. And Carolina was a great fit, great history department, great political science department. That's one of the reasons why I came here. Yeah. But Coach McGuire, obviously, I mean, great team. Preseason #1, we had all kind of All-Americans. Just won the ACC the year before I came undefeated. So there's a lot of good reasons to come to the university.
See, Judge, one of my favorite things about Frank is his role in basketball history, because Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, there's no footage of it. It almost is, you know, you have some radio broadcast, but you don't ever have the full thing. And it's a lot of word of mouth, and it kind of gains like Paul Bunyan-style legend over the years. Did he ever mention that to you guys? Anybody ever ask about that?
He talked about it all the time. Like when he coached the Philadelphia Warriors, he goes to Chamberlain and says, in order for us to win, Wilt, you've got to average 50 points a game. And he did average 50 points a game. And I remember when I was in high school, I got a letter from Wilt Chamberlain encouraged me to go come play for Coach McGuire.
Wow.
That's a good ring pitch.
I have it somewhere.
Oh, man. I think that season he averaged 50. I think he also averaged like 28 rebounds a game or
something like that. And then Coach McGuire only coached the Warriors for 1 year. They moved to San Francisco, and he didn't want to move his family out west. And then a year or so later, I think 65, 66, when he got the job here. Yeah. And the rest is history, pretty much.
Before we get you out of here, just, you know, we'll have Lamont a little bit later on. Again, didn't go well last year. New team coming in. You've watched the Southeastern Conference go from, you know, almost having basketball be an afterthought to Mike Slive, rest in peace, really pushing this conference to do more, to now perhaps becoming premier in terms of men's basketball right now. What's that been like, and what's the next big step, in your opinion, for Coach Paris?
Well, I think there's a very positive vibe about the team we're going to have coming up. And I say that because I was listening to Coach Paris about 2 weeks ago, and you could tell in his voice over the radio how excited he was about it. Gives me a wonderful opportunity to teach these kids and bring them together. So I think he wants to glue a team together to show that we're just as good, we will be just as good this year as we were 2 years ago. I think that's his goal, that's his object. And I get the feeling that everybody is comfortable with the team we have in place. How many wins we're going to have, how many losses we're going to have, no one knows yet. But I think they feel pretty good about the players that they have assembled.
All right. As born and raised in Dillon, but you've been here in Columbia a long time. But what's Casey Manning's like go-to July 4th meal? What's the big entree that you look forward to most?
July 4th meal?
Yeah. Or do you have one?
Well, usually it's a combination of things. Probably a little bit of beef, a little bit of chicken, and some fish all rolled into one. Nice. With a starch, and you know, I like rice. I do a lot of cooking, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
And vegetables, I always throw something like that in there. But it'd be like a smorgasbord. All right,
that's good. No, that's good. I don't know if it's going to be like a barbecue-centric thing, you know, from the PD or anything like that. So that'll be fun. It's great to see you.
Great. You look good, a lot better than I thought you would, as I said earlier, of course. So.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Now we have cameras in here, though, so people can tell that I'm not just a radio guy. So there's that. But good to see you. Best to the family. Good luck on the book, and do keep us posted on that. We need to see you more, so we'll keep in touch. I promise.
Well, I hope to be around for a while, and sooner or later I'll get to the book and I'll finish it. And I want to thank you guys for inviting me here. It's wonderful to be a part of this amazing program.
Yeah.
107.5, and I have friends listening from New York on this broadcast.
Beautiful. All right. Well, shout out to them. I was just up there a couple months ago. We got to get Elijah has yet to go to the Big Apple, so we're going to send him up there pretty soon. We just have him cover something. I don't know what.
Maybe the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. We should have sent him to the draft. We should have sent him to the draft. We didn't even think about that. We should have sent you to the draft.
That would have been fun.
He's Casey Manning. Appreciate you, Judge.
All right.
Have a great summer. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good stuff. All right. That's the Judge. We'll be right back. 9 minutes in front of 4 o'clock, Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Thanks once again to the great Judge Casey Manning. I'm telling you, man, just wonderful human being. And really happy that he could come in and hang out with us. And he said, call him again. So we're going to now. And then he'll be regretting.
Have to, yes.
He'll be regretting that. But great stuff from him. And again, had him in the first part of the conversation talking about Colin Murray-Boyles, drafted number 9 last night in the NBA draft, second highest draft pick ever from University of South Carolina men's basketball program, and a few other things going on. Coach Paris will be joining Elijah and me coming up in the 5 o'clock hour with more of his take on CMB going in the top 10 last night. So plenty more to do on that. We've got some interesting SEC football stuff to talk about, but right now, because we were talking to the judge, we should have asked him this, and I feel dumb. I really do. We should have at least, posited this to him so that we could have gotten his take even off air. But today's start bench drop.
Yeah.
Is NBA draft themed, but it's even more than that. And we love this one.
This one was tough.
Yeah. I think I know mine. I'm not going to give it yet, but I think I know mine. Your start bench drop choices for today. These are number 1 draft picks in their particular year. In alphabetical order: Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal.
Another impossible one. Did it again.
Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. I never saw Tim Duncan play in person. Saw Shaq when he came into Columbia when he played for LSU. And I've told the story to you before. My first ever NBA game up in Charlotte was my high school senior year, Christmas break. I forget the exact date, but I remember it was Christmas break. And the Rockets were in town playing the Hornets. And my buddy Andrew and I went. We had good seats, lower level, corner, about 20 rows up. And I know I've said it to you many times, but I never get tired of saying it because I just remember the feeling as like an 18-year-old. Oh my God, I'm watching Akeem Olajuwon play basketball.
It's the coolest feeling when you're watching somebody. And basketball is one of those sports specifically because they don't wear helmets. Like it's more you get that facial recognition. When you see somebody that you watched on TV so many times in person like that, it's awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was just, and I did like all night. I just kind of felt that's how I felt because I remember those Houston Cougar teams, and look, they should have probably won multiple titles. They certainly could have won, and they didn't win any. I know the NC State game. It's just like I remember Clyde Drexler was on that team too, but then he goes to the Rockets, and just to see that development. Of course, obviously, he ultimately won multiple championships, but I do, man. There's high school senior me.
Oh my God, that's Akeem Olajuwon.
It was just thrilling.
He's a larger than life figure.
It was awesome. So we'll give you our take on that in a little bit. SEC football players ranked. How did the Gamecocks do? You'll find out coming up. It's 4 o'clock on a Thursday. Welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Once again, a big, big thank you to Judge Casey Manning for joining Elijah and me here in studio. I do not say these things lightly, but, wonderful human being is a terrific way to describe Judge Casey Manning. So appreciate his time.
Hall of Fame individual.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And we will get him back in here more. Keep writing that book, Judge. Should we do that, though? I think that's what we should do. Like the season opener pregame show, we'll have Derek on. And then while Derek is on with us before he does his broadcast, we'll be like, Derek, we need you to do us a solid.
Keep ragging on him about that book.
We just need you to somewhere along the way, maybe during like one of the timeouts where they don't take a break, Derek can go, by the way, Casey, how's the book coming?
People are asking for it.
I was on with Jay and Elijah, and they just wanted to know how the book was coming.
They kept mentioning this book.
Yeah, so
we need updates.
We'll see what we can do. No, we appreciate Judge's time. All right, start bench drop today, and I just threw it out on Twitter at jphillips1075. I'll get Elijah to retweet that for us.
Yes.
Number 1 overall pick themed: Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. And I did throw in the tagline, Elijah, don't worry, it's supposed to be hard. Because it is. This one's hard. This one's hard.
This one's so difficult.
I think I know. But now that's Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, 5 titles.
Yep.
Hakeem has 2 titles. Shaq has 4 titles.
Between the 3 of these gentlemen, would you like to guess how many All-NBA appearances, not All-Stars, All-NBA appearances they have between the 3?
Let's go. I'm going to say like a hard number here instead of something off the wall. 25?
Lower. All right, higher.
Higher. Okay. Good.
You were too low.
All right, let's go, Bob Barker. You should play the Price is Right music for us here.
This would have been actually the best time for the Price is Right.
All right, 30.
Close. 31.
31.
Tim Duncan has 15 All-NBA appearances. Shaq has 14. And then Hakeem Olajuwon has 12.
Okay. Wow.
I believe my math is correct there.
No, that would be...
Actually, no, I didn't carry a 1. Just kidding. I was trying to do that mentally.
Yeah, that'd be more.
That's a mess. Actually, so we lowballed it on that, too.
How about MVPs? Did they each have at least... Don't they each at least have a couple of MVPs each?
Tim's got 2, Hakeem's got 1, Shaq's got 1.
Okay. I wasn't sure how many MVPs they had. So they all have multiple titles.
41.
They all have an MVP.
All NBA appearances.
Is Duncan, help me out. He's not in the Hall of Fame yet.
He is.
He is, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How many years has he been out? Okay.
I think he retired 17, 18.
Okay. So he is in. Okay.
Here's the accolades in terms of the tail of the tape here of the gentlemen we're all comparing.
All right.
Tim Duncan, 15-time All-Star, 15-time All-NBA, 15-time All-Defense, 2 MVPs, 5 championships, 3 Finals MVPs, All-Rookie, Rookie of the Year. Shaq, 15-time All-Star, 14-time All-NBA, 3-time All-Defense, 2-time scoring champ, 1-time MVP, 4-time champ, 3-time Finals MVP. Hakeem Olajuwon, 12-time All-Star, 12-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defense, 3-time block champion, 2-time rebound champion, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 1 MVP, 2 championships, Finals MVP with both.
And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, help me out, on Hakeem, became an American citizen and was on Dream Team 2.
Yes. He was on Dream Team 2, not Dream Team 1.
Duncan won a gold medal?
Duncan, ironically enough, was on the team that got
did
bronze.
Not. Was he on 04?
Mm-hmm.
And then he didn't play again?
He didn't play again after that. I don't know if he was on 2000 or not. He might have been.
And Shaq played in the Olympics? Right? I feel like, was he on Dream Team 2?
Let me pull up the roster for Dream Team 2, which would have been 1996.
Yeah, because I went to that. Now, Jordan didn't play, Bird didn't play, Magic didn't play, but some of the guys...
Bird could barely play on the first one.
I know, but he had to be on the team.
He had to, yeah. You couldn't exclude him.
And they were going to win anyway.
Oh, I mean, Larry could have just laid down with an ice pack on his back, and never even wore a uniform. So the roster for the 96 team was Charles Barkley, Grant Hill, Penny Hardaway, David Robinson, Scottie Pippen, Mitch Richmond, Reggie Miller, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Shaq, Gary Payton, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay. All right. So Shaq did. All right.
Bobby Kremen's an assistant on that staff.
Yeah. Well, in Atlanta, just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Absolutely.
I'm here.
I'm available.
This is hard. I think I know. But yesterday or 2 days ago, when we had Alan Cole on, he actually swayed my opinion on one particular choice on that day. So, if people start saying things about some of these guys, I might be swayed. But otherwise, I think I know where I'm going.
We have a few. I just now recorded mine.
Okay.
So including mine, we have 4 different unique answers.
Excellent. Hold yours. Give me like 2 of them for now.
All right. So Trey on the Firehouse Subs text line says start Shaq, bench Hakeem Olajuwon, drop Tim Duncan.
Okay.
And then there was another one here too. It's so combobulated. Okay. Chris says start the Dream, bench the Diesel, drop the Big Fundamental.
Okay. So that's 2 Tim Duncan drops.
2 Tim Duncan drops. Then Troy Jeffcoat on our YouTube stream says this one is easy for me. Start Hakeem, bench Duncan, cut Shaq. Shaq couldn't score more than 2 feet from the basket.
Josh just hit us on Twitter just seconds ago. Start Shaq, bench Duncan, drop Hakeem. Wow. Whew. That's.
What was his order again?
Shaq,
okay.
Duncan, Hakeem.
That is now the 5th different unique response that we've gotten.
So hit us up.
None of them has more than one.
Again, NBA draft / number 1 overall pick themed start, bench, drop for today. Again, last night, Colin Murray Boyles going number 9 to Toronto. Elijah, you broke down yesterday, I think, Toronto, the Bulls, the Thunder, the Hawks, and the Spurs. Those were your in whatever particular order.
You actually got it from 5 to 1.
Nice. Look at me.
Look at you.
I listen.
He studied for the test.
But the only top 10 team was the Raptors, and I'm just curious from your own perspective. I doubt there was much, but was there any surprise that Colin went in the top 10 from your point of view?
Nope. I think I probably share the opinion that a lot of the draft analysts that I follow along with closely and like respect in terms of their player evaluation, like John Hollinger on The Athletic. I've had the pleasure of meeting him and talking basketball with him a few times as well, and we kind of align a lot on like what we value in basketball players. He had Colin as one of the top 6 players in this draft. Sam Vecini on The Athletic had Colin as one of the 7 or 8 best. And a lot of folks had Colin as, in terms of just overall prospects, in the top 8 in terms of just players overall.
Well, Jay Billis, I think it was right after the...
Billis had him at 7 overall.
Yeah, I was saying right after the 6th pick, he became the number, Billis's best available. So only 2 picks after that he went.
So I'm really not surprised at all. I think a lot of the talk that we got during the process of teams that were divided on him were just teams that maybe didn't need that skill set. I mean, like the Denver Nuggets wouldn't be a good fit because you know what they already have? They have the best playmaking big man and maybe in the history of basketball.
Sure.
In terms of just passing ability, efficient scoring. The thing with what makes Colin so valuable is that the NBA is gearing towards a lot of point forwards now. The more players on the floor that you have that are threats to be able to facilitate and get the offense involved and play in the short roll. Teams use the short roll now more than they ever have in the history of the NBA. Colin is an exceptional passer out of it. With his size, there's not a lot of teams that can have screeners be great passers. That's now becoming a more coveted skill in the NBA than really we've ever seen. So him having that skill set alone, along with how great he is defensively and how playable at the next level he's going to be on defense, really makes him, in terms of just value, a top 5 or 6 value in this entire draft. So really, it was no surprise to me. And the Raptors, what they're trying to build with having multiple guys who can play make. I mean, they really only have 1 or 2 that you'd consider great playmakers. They could use a third one. And they already have kind of like a point forward in Scotty Barnes, but you can now run pick and roll combos with 2 guys that are really good passers and facilitators. And with Colin finishing at the rim around 60%, you feel really good if you're the Raptors about having those 2 guys on the floor at the same time, if you can surround them with enough shooters.
Right. It's going to be fun to see, and as you keep talking about, and look, some of it is because potentially, at least, because of injuries to guys like Jason Tatum and now Tyrese Halliburton, that the East feels a little more wide open. What do the Knicks look like? Without a coach yet. Again, let's fire our coach after our best season in a quarter century, and not have anybody ready to come take his place.
Our only plan was just to ask for interviews with other people's coaches, knowing they can say no at any time.
But this Toronto franchise has won the NBA championship, so it's not they're not in it to just kind of hang around. They did it with I won't go so far as to call Kawhi a generational talent, but certainly he is a superior talent who also won a championship down in San Antonio. Cut number 14, please, real quick here. Here's Colin last night after going number 9 overall in his post-draft TV interview.
Colin, you're from South Carolina. You stayed in South Carolina to compete as a Gamecock, and now you're headed to Toronto. How are you feeling?
Feeling amazing. Just thankful for the opportunity. Thankful to be here with my family. It's surreal. I'm still dumbfounded by this feeling, so I'm thankful for it all.
James, Colin has said that you were one of his inspirations in terms of playing basketball. Did you know that you were inspiring this ultimately?
Nah, I didn't, but I'm just so happy for the outcome. It's been a long journey. I'm just happy I could be a part of it.
We talked about you being a South Carolina guy through and through. We saw you celebrating with your family, your whole table. What do you want to say to those people tonight, Colin?
Thanks everything. Thanks for everything. Y'all have been with me through this whole process since I was 3 years old, since I picked up a basketball. I'm thankful for y'all sticking with me. Hometown, being on my back. Thanks for all of it. Everybody, Gamecock Nation, thank y'all for every single bit of love y'all gave me. I appreciate it.
Good stuff, CMB. And speaking of the Gamecocks, Coach Paris will be with us coming up in about an hour. Looking forward to talking to Lamont. But and you know what? Quick shout out too. It's been a little while, but big shout out to AC Flora High School. This is not their first foray into the upper echelon of the NBA.
Nope. Tyrone Corbin.
Ty Corbin,
Played
X-Man.
for a long time.
Yeah, so it's that's a big deal, man. Ty Corbin was.
So we can now tab AC Flora as Columbia's NBA HS.
Yeah. Now Gerald Perry played in the NBA, right? No, he just played. He only played. He was a great basketball player. He only played the NFL because he went to Dreer. I'm trying to think, wasn't there somebody else from Dreer
Alex English
other than
played,
Alex?
yeah.
Other than Alex.
And then Jermaine went to Eau Claire.
Eau Claire. Stanley was at LR. But yeah. Way to go for folks.
AC Flora might have taken that title.
Well, again, Flora, and again, not as a game. I mean, Ty Corbin, and I said X-Man, too. Xavier McDaniel went to AC Flora, too. So
NBA HS of Columbia.
They're doing all right. All right, we'll come back on the other side with more start bench drop. And again, Manny Navarro, covering college football for The Athletic, has ranked, in his opinion, the top 25 players going into the SEC football season. The Gamecocks did well. Who are they and where are they in his rankings? You'll find out next. Welcome back in. Elijah and I were just, I don't want to say reminiscing because Elijah wasn't born yet, but I remember, we were just talking about the 80s and the high school basketball scene in Columbia and just how fantastic it was, man.
I love hearing stories of that. I love the game of basketball, and I love hearing stories of how good some of these people were.
I mean, for a town our size to produce as much talent in that amount of time as it did, whether it was NBA talent, again, guys like Ty or X-Man, Ray Allen obviously lived here for a little while. I say that's not Columbia. That's right across the county line in Dalzell. But, Ray Allen played high school ball in the area. But, Stanley and JoJo at LR, the great teams that Coach Glimpf had. Michael Glover was at Keenan. Marvin Orange and all those guys over at Irmo. Kerry Rich. I know I'm forgetting some, so y'all don't scream at me any more than you have to, but it's just tons and tons of quality. Andre Bovain, who played at Clemson, was from here. It loaded, man, loaded. And then when Eau Claire and LR would play, they sold out the old Coliseum.
That's so cool.
Sold it out. And
it's probably an amazing environment.
Electrifying. And they were both, I remember back then, man, when newspapers were still a thing. But the USA Today, when they started doing the high school rankings, and it would be awesome to see LR and Eau Claire ranked in the top 25 nationally.
In a town like this.
And if I may, amazing. Too, at the same time, Hammond's own Martha Parker was doing her thing in Columbia's basketball scene, where, again, Martha went on to be freshman of the year in the Metro Conference, all conference as a sophomore, player of the year as a junior, and player of the year as a senior. So she added to it as well.
That is one of the things when I first moved here and I was kind of just doing digging. I'm like, I like to be like, who's from here, right? How many pro athletes has this place produced? And being pleasantly surprised by the amount of NBA talent and how the basketball scene was here.
It was, man, that was good times, man. It was good times. Good stuff. All right. So, start bench drop, Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, NBA draft, number 1 overall pick theme for today. So, we'll get you some more of those in just a little bit. Manny Navarro of The Athletic has put out his top 25 list of Southeastern Conference football players going into the coming season. I'm going to read these in reverse order, and then we'll get to some of y'all's thoughts. He also has the guys that just made it. Number 25, we'll go up to number 1. Number 25, Will Lee, Texas A&M cornerback. Number 24, Tyreek Sapp, defensive lineman at Florida. Number 23, Dalen Everett, Georgia corner. Number 22, it's just entry. Hold on to this one for later. Number 22, DJ Lagway, Florida quarterback. Number 21, Eli Stowers, Vanderbilt tight end. He's going to be good at the next level, too. Number 20, Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, an edge rusher. He's going to be good, too. He's good.
Oklahoma's pretty good at producing defensive linemen.
Last year, he had 12.5 tackles for loss, 11 hurries, and 9 sacks.
Ooh, heavens.
Yeah, that was last year. So he's going to be better this year. Number 19, Ole Miss linebacker Centurine Perkins, who had 14 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, and 31 quarterback pressures.
That's a lot of pressures on the quarterback.
See, that's what I love. You and I talk about it. I mean, pressures now might become more of that so-called trading card stat, but I love the PFF numbers because sometimes people say, how many sacks does he have or how many TFLs? And I'm like, man, how much havoc do you wreak?
Yeah, how much are you scaring the lights out of an opposing offensive coordinator?
And that's one of the things that we've been able to learn through the years from talking to Langston is, again, trading card stats are one thing, but what are your coaches telling you when you might not have those things? What are they looking? How are you graded? Again, and it's how do you grade disruptiveness and that kind of stuff? And you can, and PFF and those folks have found a way, but so pressures, yes, that's a stat now, but. It's also just, again, and how many times when you don't get something are you still being accounted for?
Pass rush win rate. How many times can you break past the offensive line? That was one thing whenever the Titans signed Jadeveon Clowney. Back when I was working there, a lot of people were mad that this guy, a lot of people referred to him as a bust. A lot of people referred to him as underachieving. And we had to go through segments of saying, look, if you look at some of the numbers as to how often he wins at the line of scrimmage at the NFL level, and how much he has impacted opposing quarterbacks in his career, you would say, given what the public reaction was to them signing him, that he is underrated.
Right.
Based off of that, and I know
Well,
people
how
around
often
here
was he
know
doubled?
exactly how
You know,
good.
when you're doubled in the NFL,
you're freeing it up for somebody else.
You know, he was doubled in college and could still get through some of those guys. You're doubled in the NFL, it's going to be a lot harder, but that's just it. When you force a double team, somebody. That's what I say. One of the great beneficiaries of how often JD was doubled here, or Melvin and Devin Taylor up front, man. Devin Taylor was awesome.
Yeah.
On the other side, it's like, all right, well, if we got to bring somebody around or pull a guard or do something else, well, here comes 5.
That's the thing about this upcoming year, too, with someone like Dylan Stewart, who we'll get into on this list as well, because, shocker, he's on it. But he was so good last year, and teams had to start doubling him. If Dylan Stewart doesn't have 5 or 6 sacks by the time we're getting into November, I don't think that's a cause for concern because he's still going to be having an impact. I think he's still going to have more than that because he's that good, but he's going to draw so much attention that it is going to free up an opportunity for whoever's on the edge rusher position opposite of him.
I think Clayton will be just fine if opposing offenses consistently double Dylan Stewart. Clayton will be like, cool, all right, because I got 10 others, Yeah, so double my guy. That's
Double,
cool.
please,
That's cool.
please.
That's cool. Because he's still gonna get through you half the time, and when he doesn't, I got somebody freed up coming right at you. So have at it. Number 18 on the list from Manny Navarro, top 25 players of the SEC, is Tennessee corner Jermod McCoy. Number 17, Jalen Kilgore, cornerback, South Carolina. He writes. Does Manny. Only 2 full-time starters are back on South Carolina's vaunted defense. We already ranked the other. I won't say who it is, but you can probably guess because we just talked about him. Kilgore, a 6'1", 211-pound junior, tied for the SEC lead with 5 picks and added 10 PBUs to go with 48 tackles last season. This guy is he's not underrated. He's just not talked about.
Right. And his trajectory, he's
a first-round pick.
You looked at the last his 2 years here. From going from SEC all-freshman to having a bigger role last year. Look, who knows what happens if he doesn't pick off that pass against Old Dominion in the final drive of the game.
Fair point.
Because if you lose that game, that might alter the course of what ended up happening later on in the season because that's a demoralizing loss.
Yeah.
But Jalen Kilgore sealed the deal on that one. Who knows with how Missouri was passing the ball that if Jalen Kilgore doesn't pick that pass off at the end, if they can get within striking range of the end zone, right? I mean, Jalen Kilgore made some game-saving plays last year. And look, you're not in that Alabama game if Jalen Kilgore doesn't pick off Jalen Milroe and give you a field goal right before half. I mean, he's made some of the biggest plays, some more impactful plays on this defense that just don't get talked about enough because of how many good players run that defense. I think he'll just be highlighted more this year.
Yeah. No, he's first-round pick. I'll be surprised. As long as the season is basically the same. Number 16 on the list, Arch Manning, quarterback of Texas. As I said, DJ Lagway down at 22. Arch getting all the national love, but Manny says when you rank the players, and again, there's not a lot of sample size there yet. Don't forget that. A lot of potential, and I'm not knocking Arch Manning. I think he's going to be good, but
the sample size we have is pretty good.
Yeah, just he hadn't played a whole lot yet relative to some. Number 15, Cam Coleman, wide receiver from Auburn. Number 14, Michael Taft, safety at Texas. He's also very good.
He's a monster.
He's very good. Number 13, newcomer, John Mateer, quarterback at Oklahoma. Now, again, much larger sample size of playing than an Arch Manning, and, of course, coming into Oklahoma to help them try to win more than 6 games.
Yeah.
Because they probably need to.
I think that's one of the things that Manny writes is he's going to be banked on a lot to save Brent's job.
Number 12, Kristen Miller, defensive lineman from Georgia. And number 11 is L.T. Overton, edge rusher at Alabama. 42 tackles last year and only 4 starts. But he will have a much more impactful role this season. We'll get to see him here in Columbia going up against the Gamecock offense and Lenoris Sellers later this year. All right, that's 25 through 11. We'll take a break. There are 3 Gamecocks on the list. You've only heard one, and we have the top 10 ahead of you. So we'll give you that. And who is number 1 on this list? You'll find out when the postgame show returns. All right, time to tell you about our good friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Listen, the summer is here. The hot weather is here. Yard work, though, is still a must. Ben and Matt and the crew urge you to try to get that yard work done earlier in the day. Later in the day, like right now, not the best time. I mean, look, it's not quite as hot today as it has been, but it's still over 90 degrees. So they do always urge you to be careful. When you need something new or need something repaired, Cato's is ready to help you out. They've got some great specials right now on some of the riding mowers that are out there for you, some terrific opportunities. Stop in and see them, 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, where they've been since the early 1980s. Whether it's Toro, Gravely, Steel, they can help you out. They'll fit you into the right equipment. I love my Toro stuff. I like doing yard work. I do. I know that sounds crazy to some, but I like it. You know, okay, you're lucky enough to own a little piece of the earth. You may as well take care of it, right? Whether you do it for yourself, whether you do it for a living, see Cato's for great sales, service, and advice. Always online, catospowerequipment.com.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With a few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways, but I will start off with some good news, and that's that the accident that was previously on 20 westbound before Highway 34 at exit 44 has been cleared, so we're running pretty smoothly through there. We do have accidents that are causing some active backups on Trenholm Road at Highway 12 near Forest Drive, Ramblin' Road at South Carolina 602 and Platte Springs Road, and lastly, one on Old Barnwell Road at Emmanuel Church Road.
Welcome back in. Postgame Show rolling on here on a Thursday. Jay and Elijah with you. We're counting down Manny Navarro's list of the top 25 SEC football players going into the new season. We've given you numbers 11 through 25. We're going in reverse order, so we're climbing the charts up to number one. We'll go through all of them again for you in a second here, but let's go to the top 10 now. And at number 10, Manny has Florida center Jake Slaughter. He was already a first-team All-American last season, and Manny says is considered by most to be the best center in football. Number 9, Whit Weeks, linebacker at LSU. Saw him last year. He was very good. We'll see him again over in Baton Rouge later on this season. Number 8, Dylan Stewart of South Carolina. Manny writes, the 6'5", 245-pounder from Washington, D.C. finished 4th in the SEC with 51 quarterback pressures, according to Pro Football Focus. He made 11 starts as a true freshman, finished with 10.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks. The challenge for Stewart is to continue dominating after the Gamecocks lost 3 NFL draft picks along the defensive line in Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway, and T.J. Sanders. So, yeah, Gamecocks have certainly added some depth up front. Got some guys coming along. We talked about that. Quality depth on both lines has been a priority for Shane since he got to Columbia, and it's there. How they play, we'll see. And as we talked about, this is not unlike when Clowney was in Columbia a few years back. I don't want to compare them directly, but there are a lot of similarities. And as we said, I think at times, Clayton White, now look, he'd probably rather have him go one-on-one because Dylan's going to win the vast majority of those battles. But, all right, if you want to double my guy, I'm going to find ways to exploit that. And I think that's something that will – I don't think that'll be too problematic for Carolina. I genuinely do not. I'm not saying do it every time. It'll be great. Double team him, but no. But if that's what you got to do, or so you think as an offense – again, I think Clayton's going to be okay with that.
That's a reason why if I'm having to rank the most crucial, important positions on the South Carolina team, when we start getting into camp season and we're talking about position battles,
right? The
opposite edge rusher from Dylan Stewart is number 1 on that list for me. Because if you have somebody who can even be if we can get 2 guys, 3 guys even, they can be half as productive as Kyle Kennard was and taking advantage of those situations, you're in really good shape.
Yep.
Then you're at a really high baseline on what your defense can be.
So Dylan's number 8 on the list. Number 7 is Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, 5th-year senior. Hard to believe that he's a 5th-year senior, but I'm a big fan of Garrett Nussmeier, man. I'm not alone, obviously. Maybe I see him differently, and I guess I see a lot of just what I project for the next level in him, and I'm sometimes I try not to be too guilty of that. And we try to say, hey, he's a great college guy. This is what he's doing now. But I like his poise. Again, seeing him in Columbia last year, just showed me a little bit something different. But I like where I just like that guy. Again, I think the one thing that NFL people would like is if he was about 2 inches taller.
Right.
And he's not short. He's like 6'2".
Right. But the prototype of a lot of.
But with how he plays, you'd like him to be like 6'4", 6'5". And I get it. But I like this guy. And, again, I do think he could be a bona fide top 5 pick with the right kind of season. I really do. We'll see.
Oh, certainly.
We'll see.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Number 6, Keldrick Falk, defensive lineman at Auburn. Just 2 starts last year, but, again, a guy that you just must account for. Number 5, some people think he might be the best in the conference, but Manny's got him at number 5, Ryan Williams, who is started the season last year at a 17-year-old.
Crazy.
And was probably...
He made that play against Georgia at age 17.
He is the best wide receiver in the SEC, right?
And depending on where you view Jeremiah Smith, which I think probably still number 1, but maybe one of the top 2 receivers in all of college.
Well, in the league,
without a doubt.
In the league, yeah.
Without a doubt.
Number 4, Colin Simmons, defensive end at Texas. He won the Sean Alexander Award last year, top freshman, and didn't even start, but was tied in TFLs and tied for 5th in sacks in the conference. Didn't start.
Disgusting. That is disgusting.
He's 6'3", 241, and he probably runs like he's about 200 pounds. And I think he's going to start this year.
I would be surprised if he didn't.
Number 3 is Caden Proctor, offensive lineman at Alabama. Bama, Iowa, Bama. He's at Bama now.
Yeah, was he ever really at Iowa?
He went. He just didn't play.
He didn't put on the uniform.
He was up there for a little bit. Didn't realize, I'm good. 6'7", 360 pounds. And, again, he moves like he's 260.
He's nimble.
He's good, man. All right. Number 2 on the list, Anthony Hill, junior linebacker from Texas. And they got a defense. That's the thing. I will say, what for as offensive-minded as their head coach is, working at Alabama and then being hired in Austin and saying, get us ready for this league, he said, okay, I will. You have to tackle people.
You have to have an NFL caliber defense.
Yes. You have to stop the other guy just as much as you have to score points. Anthony Hill is maybe one of the best in the country. He's already been a first-team All-American, at least from the athletics perspective last year. 5th in the league with 113 tackles. He led the conference with 16 and a half TFLs and had 8 sacks. And people know he's real good and that you need to account for him. He's going to be something else. There's only one player left. Manny Navarro says the number 1 player in the Southeastern Conference. Yeah, by now you've pretty much deduced it. Well done. Lenoris Sellers, the 2024 SEC Freshman of the Year and 3rd team all-conference pick, ranked 17th nationally in passing efficiency, throwing for 2,534 yards, 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The former 3-star recruit also ran for 674 yards and 7 scores. He enters the season with the 6th best Heisman odds, according to BetMGM. So Manny Navarro, who's been doing this a long time, says the best player in the Southeastern Conference is Lenoris Sellers. Look, it's cool for Lenoris. It's one guy's opinion. Others will tell you it's someone else. Could be some of these defenders, could be Ryan Williams, could be a host of guys. And you got to go play football games now. Carolina, I don't want to say they were catching anybody by surprise last year. I don't know that that's the case. I think you had to take them seriously. It's just that as Lenoris emerged, and as we talked about, whether you want to say so or not, because there were a couple of things that you'd like back, breakout game is probably not what you would want to classify the Alabama performance as, but in some ways it definitely was.
I call it the light bulb game.
I think so too. Yeah, breakout, because you probably want a breakout game to be a win. And I'm not sure that ever really materialized because of just how good he was against Alabama. That maybe a breakout game didn't necessarily happen. And some people may be able to light bulb game is good. I like that. I continue to say, I will always say, I think that he played a really, really, really good game at Alabama. He wants 2 plays back. There's a lot of guys at the highest levels that want a couple of plays back in certain games. That's just that's the nature of sport, right? But it seemed to click. You're right, light bulb. It just it happened for him in Tuscaloosa by and large. And then from that point forward, they didn't lose again until the bowl game. And again, in the bowl game, he wasn't terrible, and they had a chance to win. You might want a couple of plays back, don't you? And the Clemson game, Missouri game, A&M game, fantastic stuff, man. So I get it. It's going to be really interesting, as we've talked about so much, Elijah. There are so many high-level quarterbacks this year in the Southeastern Conference. I don't know that there's a bad quarterback. There's a couple that you have some questions about, whether it's experience or transferring. But you look top to bottom like, oh, yeah, yeah, all right. I mean, there's good quarterbacks everywhere.
Yeah, really, the guys that you have the most question marks are, like you mentioned, the guys that don't have as much experience, like Austin Simmons at Ole Miss, but he was a highly rated recruit coming out of high school. Ty Simpson at Alabama was a top 10 recruit overall coming out of high school.
And both work with tremendous quarterback coaches.
Yes, so that you have a feeling that they can be something, right? What it is, you don't know. But we saw flashes from Bo Perbula when he was on the field at Missouri. Really, the only 2 quarterbacks, well, I mean, I don't even want to put Blake Shapen in this category from Mississippi State. He got hurt last year, so he only played about 5 or 6 games. But in those numbers in those games, pretty good. Yeah. And also, Jeff Lebby's his coach.
And he has a tremendous quarterbacks coach.
A quarterback-friendly offense, a really good quarterback coach. And then really, if I'm having to rank SEC quarterbacks, the only one I feel confident at squaring away at 16 would probably be Kentucky's Zach Calzada. Yeah. And I think a lot of things for Kentucky right now you can slide in at number 16.
And even he was highly recruited, man.
He was.
I mean, I think he's a good quarterback. What's around him, I'm not sure, and that matters so much. But
if that guy's the worst quarterback in your league is loaded.
Yeah.
It's one of those situations right there. I mean, it's a great year for the league, but if you just want to look at this list right here and you want to make an observation, There are more South Carolina Gamecocks in this list than Georgia Bulldogs. It says something. I don't know what it says.
It's a thing.
But in terms of your best players, I mean, if you on a list like this have 3 players in the top 25, Georgia's got 2. That tells you that your team should be pretty good this year.
It tells
you have the talent to make some noise.
Yeah, the Cruton is working.
The Cruton's doing really good.
Yeah.
You're bringing those guys in.
So good stuff. Thanks to Manny Navarro for helping all of us out with that. And again, Lenore Sellers, number 1, Dylan Stewart, number 8, Jalen Kilgore, number 17 on Manny's list of the top 25 players going into the 2025 season. All right, we'll come back, update you on start, bench, drop. You're starting, benching, and dropping Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, former number 1 overall picks, as we talk about the NBA draft. A little J or nay, and reminder, in about a half hour's time, Coach Lamont Paris talking about Colin Murray Boyles. This is the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour coming up. Top of the hour, headlines of the day. 5:15, Lamont Paris will be with us. We already had Judge Casey Manning on talking about Colin Murray Boyles. Had a little more fun with Judge on a few other things, too. We'll talk to Coach about his latest prodigy and what he's going to be doing at the next level. That's 2 local draft picks already in the Lamont Paris era. G.G. Jackson, now Colin Murray Boyles. So who's next? We'll see.
That's the fun question.
Should we ask him that? Does he have an
Should.
answer? We should. Who's next? You got a track record going here now. Let's update you on a little bit of start bench drop. Again, starting benching dropping today. Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal as number 1 overall picks as we talk about the NBA draft. I'll give you a couple that I've got here. You got a running tally?
I do.
Franklin says start Shaq, bench Duncan, cut Akeem. You got our good friend Michael Geddes already, right?
Yep, recorded
got
Michael's.
his. Steven says start Duncan, bench Olajuwon, drop Shaq. And did we have another? I thought we had another one here. Where was John? No, John hit us with something else. Never mind. John, I thought John had. Okay, never mind. All right, you go.
You got a couple on the text line here. Nameless texter says start Duncan, bench Shaq, drop Hakeem. And then Evan with a funny comment saying, great list for start bench cut, but I want Iguodala, channeling his inner Max Kellerman whenever he was asked who he'd rather have. When he said, talking about the NBA Finals, the Warriors in it.
Right.
Steph's great and all, but if I have someone with a shot on the line, the aliens are pointing the ray gun at Earth, and there's one shot to save us, I want Andre Iguodala.
Kellerman really said that one day?
Oh, yeah. If you get a chance, look up the clip, because everybody else on the set just starts laughing.
Yeah. Well, I guess Max was just trying to be different that day.
Yeah, you could say that.
All right. Let's do a little J or nay here because we get to hear game show music, so that's always fun.
Yes, and instead of our traditional J or nay, this is what we would call in school a pop quiz. So you're getting pop quizzed right now.
Okay.
Jay Phillips. So this is real or fake NBA draftee. Starting with number 1. You're just going to tell me if this player is real and got drafted last night or is a name I made up. Kasparis Yakachonis.
Real.
Real. There you go. I'll start you off with the easiest one.
Did.
Played at Illinois. Was
did.
really good last year.
Yeah.
Went to Miami last night. Pick 20.
Yeah.
Number 2. Hugo Gonzalez.
Fake.
Jay Phillips says fake, but he is real. Hugo Gonzalez is from Spain, was picked by the Boston Celtics last night at number 28.
Dang. I knew there was a Spanish guy, and I did. Dang.
All right. Number 3. Yannick Conan Niederhauser.
That's fake.
Jay says it's fake, but he's real. Yannick Conan Niederhauser, real player at Penn State last year, and was the last pick of the first round. Lastly, Dominguez Algamontes.
Well, I mean, you've gone all real, so I just got to think that they're all real. So I'm just going to say real because why not?
And Dominguez Algamontes is fake. I just looked up popular Lithuanian names today and came up with a fake name. Jay Phillips goes 1 for 4.
This game is rigged. Well, 1 for 4 is pretty good in today's Major League Baseball. Headlines coming up.
Afraid it's not baseball. From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with only 3 accidents to report to you, thankfully, that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We're going to start with one near Windsor Park Drive. It's actually over at Old Cherokee Road near Old Chapin Road. We also have one in Lexington County at Peach Festival Road at US 1. And lastly, an accident reported here in the last 30 minutes or so over on Two Notch Road near Sparkleberry Lane.
It is 5 o'clock news time here on a Thursday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Do want to remind you, coming up in about 15 minutes, Coach Lamont Paris will be with Elijah and me talking about something that you heard last night right around 9 o'clock.
With the 9th pick in the 2025 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Colin Murray Boyles from the University of South Carolina.
You see the emotions there. His girlfriend right next to him in the red dress. That is Chloe Kitts, 6'2" starting forward at South Carolina, the SEC tournament MVP, and with his family as well.
Good stuff last night as Colin Murray Boyles becomes the second highest picked Gamecock men's basketball player in the history of the NBA draft. Congratulations to Colin going to Toronto. Elijah, yesterday you really broke down a lot of the teams that could be the best fit for Colin, and you had Toronto pretty much at the top of the list. Toronto clearly had him at the top of the list because, as has now been reported, Jonathan Givony and others saying that there were multiple clubs that reached out to Toronto to trade up because those other teams, wanted CMB, and Toronto said, nah, he's coming up north.
He's a coveted prospect because of that skill set. He might have had maybe the most unique skill set in terms of just combining size, passing ability to finish around the rim, be an efficient scorer, and be an all-around great defender than we have outside of Cooper Flagg in this draft, right? I mean, Cooper Flagg's skill set isn't necessarily as maybe rare as what Collins might be, just because you can get a lot of guys that can score, but Cooper Flagg just does it at such a high level that he's kind of in a class on his own. But doesn't surprise me at all that he went top 10. And it doesn't surprise me at all that it was highly coveted. It wouldn't surprise me at all that a team that was thinking about trading into the top 10 that ultimately did was hitting up our guest in the next segment about Colin Murray Boyles, right? None of that surprises me at all, because with today's NBA, with needing to have as many playmakers on the floor as possible and the value of having a big man that can pass the ball the way that Colin does and be a connector on offense while also being able to guard all 5 positions. And as Casey Manning said when he was here with us in the first hour of the show, he defends them well. Yeah. He doesn't just defend them. I mean, I guess technically I can guard all 5 positions, but none of them well. Right? I mean, I'm getting
you can put me out there.
I can try to do it, and I can defend them, but there's a difference between defending and defending well. Yeah. But Colin does it really well. So it doesn't surprise me at all, honestly, Jay, that a team like Toronto, who doesn't really – Scotty Barnes is kind of that point forward prototype, but being able to add another guy that can connect other members of their offense that have good scoring skill sets but maybe aren't great at creating their own shot only makes an offense like that improve.
A funny moment last night, too, and it's certainly been explained, and you'll hear it here, but Colin said a word you can't say on TV. It was not in anger, quite the opposite. Here's Colin explaining why he might have dropped that F-bomb.
Yo, WTF for sure. WTF all the way till my name got called. Man, it was crazy. But geez, I almost shed a tear. But I try to keep my composure. But you know, it's surreal. Like I dreamed of this when I was a kid. Like you never know you're gonna be there till you're there for real. So it's like it's crazy.
So it's all good. He's very happy to go to Toronto. He's explained further in some press availability, hey, they were the first ones to work me out. I think we hit it, basically, I'm saying, not paraphrasing, we hit it off. And, I don't know how, sometimes I think a team will tell you, if you're there, we're taking you. I don't know if they did, what his agent was hearing. And listen, I think if you're Toronto and there are some clubs calling, as quickly as you can, you try to have some due diligence. Like, oh, well, what are you giving us? I mean, it's business. You gotta listen, right? At least sometimes. And I wonder if they were like, yeah, no, I don't, no, and then just settle in and let him know. But no, it was a good F-bomb.
It was
not a bad one.
I mean, trust me, as somebody who has maybe had experienced emotions that would require me to say a word I can't say on the radio.
Yep.
Sometimes that emotion of relief or joy may bring that out of me.
That's right.
So I mean, I get it. I totally get it. I get when people would see that and put on their lip reading hat and be like, oh, he's not happy. But I get also seeing that being like, yeah, we've been there before.
Trey Johnson went number 6 last night from Texas in terms of SEC guys to Washington. Jeremiah Fears of Oklahoma went next at number 7 to New Orleans. Again, Colin at number 9. Walter Clayton of Florida picked higher than his at least ranking. He went number 18 to Washington, but that was a trade that actually sent him to the Jazz. And Asa Newell of Georgia was drafted by the Pelicans, but he will actually be playing for the Atlanta Hawks.
Every NBA draft has one doofus, Jay Phillips, and the doofus of the draft was the New Orleans Pelicans, trading up 10 spots to get Derek Queen, and in the process, giving Atlanta their unprotected first-round pick for next year
yeah.
as if the Pelicans assume they're going to be in the playoffs and it won't be a lottery pick.
Do you think the Pelicans are – is there something up with Zion that we're not hearing? I mean, I know you can pair them, but I was surprised by that too. I like Derek Queen. Now again,
I do too. I like Derek Queen.
I'm a former, at least, tuition-paying parent at the University of Maryland, so I do pull for the Terps now a little bit. But I'm with you. That didn't make sense to me.
Especially giving up your unprotected first-round pick next year, meaning that if they're in the lottery again, which they will be. Spoiler,
probably.
They'll be in the lottery again. If they have a Mavericks-esque jump to being number 1 in next year's draft, it's not going to New Orleans. That will be a gift to the Atlanta Hawks. And guess what? The Hawks got a player in Asa Newell 10 spots later who I think is just as good and valuable as Derek Queen.
Yeah, you're right. That was odd.
The doofus of the night was the New Orleans Pelicans.
That was odd. Congratulations to Asia Wilson last night. She became the fastest ever WNBA player to score 5,000 points.
That's awesome.
That's a deal.
That is.
She's best player on the planet still.
Yes.
I know Caitlin gets all the attention. It's well-deserved. I'm not here for that part of it, but
Asia's the best.
I think if you're asking the GMs of the WNBA who can I build my team around most, they're all picking Asia Wilson.
If there is a rankings like who would you trade your children for to get on your team, Asia Wilson's number 1 on that list.
Probably so.
Guarantee it.
Stay with some Gamecock athletic news for you. Carolina Athletics finished in the top 25 of the Learfield Directors Cup. That's the overall athletic department standings for the school year. Number 23 in the country. That's good for 11th in the SEC. Yeah, that's the league you play in. Carolina sent out a little graphic that said 4th year in a row that they have been the best school in state. If you are wondering, Clemson was the 2nd best school in state. The Tiger Athletic Department finishing 47th in the country and number 12 in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So Gamecocks finished 23rd in the Learfield Cup, 11th overall. Texas, by the way, was your number 1, Southern Cal 2, Stanford 3.
Stanford always seems to be at the top in those, despite not being any good at the revenue.
I think they've been doing this now like 32, 33, early 90s, so 30 or low 30s, and I think Stanford has won all but like 5 of them.
I think it's the Olympic sports.
It is.
Yeah,
It absolutely
they are
is.
so good in
Yeah.
Olympic sports.
And they've been, and they're really good at like baseball, which is not necessarily an Olympic sport. They're really good every year at women's basketball. They've had their moments in football and men's basketball. But
Andrew Luck contributed to some of that.
But I think Stanford and Cal, man, that's one of the things that they like really, I think, in all seriousness for a minute, like why they really knew they needed to stay in a power conference is because when you look at it, how many Olympians they supply our nation, not to mention a few other nations, but how many they supply the United States of America.
It's a healthy number.
Yeah, man. Like you need to keep that going,
Yeah, thank you, Stanford, for contributing.
I mean,
in that way.
It's actually really illuminating when you see those numbers. Braves had a setback last night. They finally lost to the New York Mets. 6 games into the season series between the two.
Headline: Pinata swings back.
That's right.
For once.
That's right. But the Mets get it done last night with a final of 7-3. Poor Didier Fuentes he needs to probably go back down. Look, they like his stuff. He had very little minor league experience. The Braves, of course, have had to shuffle a few things with injuries to the pitching rotation. And they like the kid, but that's now 2 starts where he's been beat up a little bit. No, I didn't see any word today that he had been sent back down. But you don't want it to hurt his overall confidence too much. He needs to work on where it's great that you can throw hard. But when you throw hard right down the middle, the ball's going to go 400 and something feet.
You have to be able to harness your power and be able to spot it and control it. But a little more seasoning needed.
Yeah, he'll be all right. And now tonight, Braves aren't the co-favorites. Both teams at -110 tonight in the 4-game series finale. Atlanta will send Grant Holmes, and what do I say? His hair and mustache.
Yep, they will both be out there.
Out on the hill. He's 4-6 with a 3.71, 97 strikeouts in 85 innings.
That's crazy.
Griffin Canning is 7-3. He goes for the Mets. The righty has a 3.91. He's got 67 strikeouts in 73 and 2/3, 7-10. First pitch from Citi Field. And that is your Integrated Media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more. Get ahead of the football rush. And you know what? The next year's basketball rush. Why not? We're talking basketball today.
We are.
Call Integrated Media. Speaking of basketball, we stay with our NBA draft team and the Gamecocks. The head coach, Lamont Paris, joins Elijah and me to discuss Colin Murray Boyles and more. You're listening to the Postgame Show. And speaking of Integrated Media, let me tell you even more about these guys when I talk about getting ahead of the football rush. Look, sometimes, yes, in the early part of the season, it's really hot. But listen, as the season moves on and you get that nice fall weather, you might be outside with your friends and family along the patio, the deck, maybe around the pool, and you're like, man, I'd like to have a TV out here. I don't have to drag a TV out. And what if I forgot about it? Like we just got sleepy and went inside and then it got rained on or something like that. That would be bad. No, don't be that. Instead, call Integrated Media now and get ahead of that outdoor TV football rush. Yes, they install amazing outdoor sound systems that look and sound just like everything does inside. Trust me on this. I'm serious. TVs and speakers that are built to be outside 24/7, 365, even in our climate. 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs, including outdoors. Call Integrated Media. 16 minutes after 5 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. Coach Lamont Paris joining us here in just a second. Drive around the SEC still to come. And again, today's start, bench, drop. You're starting, benching, and dropping number one overall picks in the NBA. Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. We'll get final results towards the end of the program.
It's a balanced tally.
Yeah,
it's a very balanced tally right now.
We'll give you ours coming up in a little bit, too. We should probably ask Coach about this at some point here before we get him out of here.
We should. I'm sure he's got thoughts.
But we welcome back onto the program the head basketball coach at the University of South Carolina. He is Lamont Paris, fresh off seeing one of his guys go top 10 in the NBA last night. Coach, how are you? What were your butterflies like last night before Colin got picked?
Doing great. By the way, let's get back to that thing that you were saying. Those are some names you were just throwing out as I was patched into the conversation. So I'm interested in where that was going. But anyway, you know, my butterflies. I wouldn't say butterflies, but you hope for Colin's sake and his family's sake that he gets, you know, two things. One, I think the most important thing is that he gets the actual best situation and opportunity for him. I think that's the first thing that you're hoping for. And then the second thing, you're hoping that he does that with the best draft position possible, because, you know, every slot you slide down, it's less guaranteed money for the most part. So in a perfect world, you get a great pick in terms of the number, and then a great pick in terms of the organization and their plan for you and all that kind of stuff. And so you're just always real hopeful. I was very hopeful just in some of the conversations that I had with a lot of these guys that had a worse pick than number 9, that were kind of hoping that Colin would still be available, and that's when I really started to get excited about what might happen. But it's draft night, and you know, until you push the button that says Colin Murray Boyles, it's not there are no certainties in that draft, and so I was really excited, really happy for him.
I was always intrigued with what the fit was going to be with where he went. And yesterday, Coach, I put down 5 teams that I thought were the best fit, and I had the Raptors at 5. And I'm really intrigued on what maybe a Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray Boyles pick and roll might be, because I think what Colin's one of his best abilities and what makes him so valuable is his ability to pass out of that short roll, and that's just in such high demand in the NBA right now too, or bigger playmakers, and the Raptors have one of those, but they can really play them alongside each other. But when you look at this Raptors team and you look at everything that Colin can bring to the table, how well do you think he fits, and how much better do you think he can make them?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, and I was telling people when they were considering drafting Colin that, I think the biggest thing is that you have to play in a style that's going to suit him and the rest of your personnel. But, you don't draft Zach Edey and play in a way where you're never going to throw the ball into the post. That doesn't make that much sense. And so I think the things that Colin does, he does those things really well. I think those things are very reproducible. And so on some levels, I think he could find a way to fit into most programs or organizations. But I think this one, obviously there were a lot of guys out there, and they feel really comfortable with him. I do think they drafted him on, it seems that they drafted him on fit versus drafting him on just best player available, which a lot of times guys will just do that. And I'm not saying that I don't think he was the best player available, but when you're looking at just raw sheer upside on some of these guys, people are willing to, take a swing at the fences and then maybe not get there in hopes that they also might uncover, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in the process, or whoever it might be. But so I think he'll be able to help them as a defender, as a guy that can make plays. And here's the other thing. People oftentimes draft a guy, and the guy averaged all these points in college, and then you get in to the NBA, and your role is not to do that. And I think Colin's already ready mentally, and he's prepared to play the kind of role that can help any team win. He doesn't have an ego, and he prefers to help others look better than to have himself look better, and that's a rare quality.
Coach, you just hit on something. We're talking to Coach Lamont Paris here again. Colin Murray-Boyles going number 9 overall last night to the Toronto Raptors. You just hit on something that Judge Casey Manning told Elijah and me earlier today about helping others. Casey marveled at Colin's ability to know what every other player on the floor needed to be doing at that moment and how Colin could adjust or help them adjust. I'm curious from your perspective in coaching him every day when you recognized his court awareness and then what you did to kind of harness those special things that he could do to bring more out of him.
Well, pretty early on in the process, that you could tell that there was a unique blend of, you saw some of this in the recruiting process, and that's why we took him. But you could tell there was a unique blend of feel, of competitiveness, of team. I mean, he's the ultimate team player. The ultimate team player. I found myself, over this last year especially, and it's not like I sit around thinking about the glory days and what it would be like to be able to play basketball again. But because of who he is, I will have to say 5 times maybe or so, I found myself just thinking, be like, man, this guy would be a great teammate. I'd love to go back and be a teammate with this guy. And so that he's got the mind of a servant. It's like servant leadership. And he was able to blend in immediately because of that. He's non-threatening to anyone. He hangs his hat on the defensive side of the ball, so he's always doing all the things that clearly every coach in the history, or most of them in the history of basketball, have said, hey, this is how you win consistently, is that you defend. So he's interested in winning, and he's a good player. But because he was able to do those things, he was able to come in on a veteran team that won 26 games and play a significant role even as a 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old guy as a freshman.
And when you look at him right now, I've been consuming so much NBA draft stuff in the lead up to this. And, of course, the thing that you see every single time, regardless of who's writing it, they mention, in terms of maybe downside, his height for the position and three-point shooting. When I watch Colin shoot, I see somebody that can maybe, shoot threes at the NBA level with, some good coaching, repetition, and maybe an offense that might encourage him to shoot threes more. But when you hear some of those things from maybe an anonymous, draft scout or somebody who's making a mock draft, how much confidence do you have in Colin to be able to go to the NBA, defend all 5 positions at his size, and then be able to shoot the 3 ball well enough to be able to space the floor?
Well, those are people's concerns that are height for his position and his ability to shoot the 3. Steph Curry's downsides are probably height for the position and the ability to block shots. But I just don't think we think about Steph Curry when we think about blocking shots. We think about all the other things that Steph Curry does that changed the game for his team. And so, height for his position, he's also got incredible measurables in terms of his wingspan relative to his height. He's got a level of power which is different than strength. Strength is, you can measure that in a weight room. Power is different. It's functional strength and explosiveness combined. He's got tremendous power, off the charts power. And so are you going to evaluate him? But here's someone that's really smart that says, hey, I don't think he shoots the ball great, and I'm sure, and down the road, maybe that's going to have to get better. I mean, how smart are you to be able to point that out it's also hot in Colombia in July. But I certainly one day he's going to probably to advance to the next level of NBA player. He's going to have to probably add that to his game. He's a hard worker. He's had a lot of things that he has added to his game. Somebody asked me that. Well, if he knew he had to get better at shooting, why didn't he improve that much at shooting over last year? Well, he also got better at playing one-on-one back to basket in the post. He also got better at face-up stuff. If you look at most of his baskets his freshman year, again, he had all these other pieces around him, and they were unpredictable, what you might call garbage-type baskets, and he was incredible at that. Well, this year, it was different. We threw the ball to him and said, create something in a back-to-back situation. We said, create something in the middle of the floor with not quite as much space as you'd like, but some space to do. And so he had to add a lot of things to his game. So it's hard to add shooting to his game too. He's got incredible touch. He's got some mechanical deficiencies in his shot, I think, and someone will be able to get to those, iron out a couple of those things, and it wouldn't surprise me if one day he's a pretty good shooter. But the things that he does well, they're never going to change. I mean, he's never going to not defend like that ever. I just don't ever see that. He could average 30 one day in the NBA, and he's still going to be a guy that is wired to defend at an incredibly high level.
Coach, this is two guys from Columbia that you've coached that have now gone on to be drafted in the NBA. Gigi's had a good run, and now we're looking for big things from Colin. What does it say about the scene in Columbia, and what does this mean for your program?
Yeah, I think it highlights a couple of different things. One is that, the talent that's in the state of, not only the state of South Carolina, but just even in the city and the surrounding city of Columbia. But I think when you talk about our program, we're rooted in things in development. We're rooted in good fundamentals, and so as you get to the next level, I think that's what it was. You see, Gigi got drafted maybe in a position that he or someone else didn't anticipate that it would be that, right? But when he got his opportunity as a young guy, 18-year-old, he makes the all-rookie team in the NBA because he was ready, because he was prepared. I think we have really helped him in that way be ready when his opportunity came to be able to go. He was able to shoot. He was touted as a rim-running, rebounding, lob-catching center when he was in high school, and we had him playing at the wing and making threes. And anyone that called me in anticipation of drafting, I said, hey, here's the one thing I know that he'll do. I honestly believe he's going to make open three-pointers at the NBA level. I honestly believe that, and sure enough, that's what he's able to do. Colin is a guy that 2 years ago nobody would have ever believed he would be the number 9 pick in the NBA draft. Nobody. I mean, no one really believed it. His parents probably hoped that would happen one day, but nobody believed 2 years later he'd be the number 9 pick. I'm not sitting here telling you that I thought that it would be the number 9 pick 2 years later, but I think we helped equip him with some of the tools needed to succeed at the next level and at this level. Obviously, we needed him to succeed at this level too, but I think it bodes well for your ability then to get an opportunity at the next level, and then when you get that opportunity, to make good on that opportunity.
Before Elijah asks you about star pinch drop, I have one thing here. You spent a long time in Madison, Wisconsin. Now Colin's going to Toronto, Ontario. Have you coached him for the cold? Have you coached him for the cold?
I've told a couple of stories about what cold weather really looks like. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard if you've never been around that kind of cold. And the problem with Canada is in the wintertime. Now he's playing games anyway, but there's nowhere to escape. You can't go west. You can't go south and stay in the country and get warm. When you're in Canada, you will be cold in the wintertime. So I think he's probably got to get a coat that was made in like Chicago
All right.
I don't know if a coat that he picked up in Columbia, South Carolina, is going to prepare him for what he's going to face there. You need a Chicago, an original Chicago coat. Maybe Boston, just geographically is a little closer. Maybe get something made in Boston. You might be prepared.
Yeah, that might be the biggest adjustment he has to make at the NBA level is getting those type of coats. But we'll go ahead and bring it full circle here, Coach. When we badge you in, you listen to the names that we have for our today's start, bench, drop exercise. It's themed with former number 1 picks in the NBA draft. So we're giving you the player pool of Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. You got to start 1, bench 1, drop 1. Have at it.
Start 1, bench 1, drop 1. Are we playing the game? That's just a good one. I'll just try to take it for face value what it is. I'm gonna start. That's a good one, man. I'm gonna start Olajuwon. I'm going to bring Shaq in off the bench when you're bringing in your second big. That's curtains at that point for that guy. And then, by virtue of I only have one more selection, I guess, Tim Duncan, who I really like, Mr. Fundamental, big fundamental, I think I'm going to have to put him on waivers.
Yeah, that's what makes these hard. We've had some tough ones. We even had one the other day that was banana pudding, key lime pie, and peach cobbler, and we had that was maybe the toughest one we've had yet, Coach. And it had nothing to do with sports.
Up there.
Yeah.
That's an easy one for me. I mean, I rank those easily. Peach cobbler first, key lime pie, and then banana pudding being third for me. This is my own personal. I don't have to think too much about that.
That's good. See, if you can rattle it straight off, that's good. Hey, appreciate the time. Yeah. Congrats. I know you're thrilled for Colin, for his family, and it's a big deal for Gamecock men's basketball as well. Appreciate it. Have a great summer. We'll holler at you here soon enough.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys, for having me. Hey, for all the listeners out there, the NBA path and road, it's a hard one now. So there may be some bumps here and there. This guy is worthy of all your support. So if he has some bumps, let's stick with him the whole way. But he's a great kid, and he's going to make it to really high ascension.
Well said. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
See you.
That's Coach Lamont Paris. Drive around the SEC. Coming up. Good stuff.
From the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to get to you. They're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Old Barnwell Road near Mack Circle and Sherway Road, Old Cherokee Road near Old Chapin Road, South Lake Drive over at I-20, and lastly, an accident's been causing some issues for about an hour or so. That one's going to be on Two Notch Road near Sparkleberry Lane.
All right, welcome back in. It is Drive Around the SEC time, an abbreviated version, as we once again thank Coach Lamont Paris for joining Elijah and me a little bit earlier. That was fun. A Chicago coat.
Yes, I think that is necessary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I imagine they probably got some coats in Toronto, too. It's a big city.
A lot of feathered animals they can use as a sacrifice to make those coats.
Yeah, or, well, I don't know. I don't want to say too many things. But I guess you could make a coat out of a bear.
I was going to say bear. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength then.
I don't know.
Plenty of bears there.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right. He'll figure it out. But yeah, man, sometimes where places are cold. Are you somebody now? You've talked about this before. You grew up in what, like northeastern Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So you get 4 seasons.
Yes. In the winter we'd get a lot of snow.
Yeah. We here don't really have. I mean, we kind of do, but it's different. But would you rather be in a place where it was hot, or when it's at its peak,
right,
or cold?
I think I'd go cold.
Yeah.
I don't mind cold weather. Never have. I love snow.
I do too.
Love snow.
And I do too. But, it's never going to happen here. But I'm just so used to the hot. But, like, when it's below 10 degrees, it's just like you can't move. Of course, you know what? When it's super hot, like, you don't want to move. So I suppose there's extremes on both ends. I don't know. I don't know if I could ever live long term in a place where winter just really sets in. Like, one of my daughters was looking at the University of Vermont, and I was like, from like Thanksgiving to March, it's a cold you've never really been a part of.
It's a different kind of cold.
It's just, and the thing is, there's no like snow day. A snow day is a day.
Yeah, that's just Monday.
Yeah. Does it end in Y? Then you're going to school.
Going to school.
Yeah.
Use the Michael Irvin tweet, the famous Michael Irvin tweet. Man, we was playing in the cold. We was cold.
Right.
That sentence tells you nothing, but it tells you everything.
Everything. So, but thanks to Lamont. Appreciate it. Again, last night, SEC players that were taken, I'll get the EBPI to rev up again. Trey Johnson to.
I mean,
they have a team.
There's a room on the roster in every roster for somebody who can just get buckets. My thing with Trey Johnson might be consistency and doing things other than scoring.
Why doesn't Washington want to be good, Elijah? Why doesn't Washington want to be good at basketball?
That's a really good question.
Because they clearly don't.
I mean, they've been in rebuild mode for
40 years.
Time. I mean, even the teams that they had that were playoff level teams, they still just didn't get enough around some of their better players to make it happen. But
when over half the league makes the playoffs, it's hard for me to do that. I mean, they haven't been good in my. They've had like 3 good teams since they won the title in the late 70s.
And I'll tell you this: Trey Johnson is the perfect prototype for the Washington Wizards because he's going to put up a lot of really fun scoring numbers. And there might be some nights where he hits 8 threes in the first half of a game, and you're like, "Oh boy, this could be really fun."
Didn't John Wall do that for a while?
He wasn't hitting threes, but he was putting up some good numbers. But it's one of those. He's going to put up a lot of good scoring numbers on nights where he might score 50 and they lose 141 to 146. That I think we'll see a lot of that with Trey Johnson in Washington. So I mean, if he can add other elements to his game that doesn't involve scoring the basketball, could be a good pick.
Jeremiah Fears of Oklahoma goes to the Pelicans. So again, Pelicans had a bad night, in your opinion?
Yeah. Anytime you trade away an unprotected first-round pick for a draft class that's expected to be maybe better than this year's, then I don't love it. I like them getting Jeremiah Fears. Fears is one of those prospects I've gone back and forth on because his three-point shooting was really inconsistent, but towards the end of the year it got better. He is a wizard at getting to the free throw line, not a Washington wizard, but he's really good at getting to the free throw line. So he does a great job great job at getting to the line, drawing fouls, and being able to create contact. That's a skill set, and he's great in the pick and roll and scoring out of it. And I think, if you want to go back and see what the quintessential Jeremiah Fears game is, watch the SEC championship game against Georgia, or not championship, SEC tournament game against Georgia, where he picked apart a very, ball-dominant defense that loads up to the ball side a lot, which is going to happen in the NBA a lot, and then watch the last 3.5 minutes of the Kentucky game that following night. That's the Jeremiah Fears experience.
Walter Clayton, we've talked a lot about Colin, who went number 9, so we're going to move over him because we've done a lot on that. Walter Clayton was picked by Washington, but that's a trade that goes to Utah, so he'll join Ace Bailey from Rutgers, who did not want to go to Utah. But how do you see those two guys meshing? Utah's good.
Utah's good, and Walter Clayton's good, and he's really good in an up-tempo offense. He's good whenever things break down and you have to improvise. I just don't know if he will be the high-level facilitator he was in college, but I've got no issue with how he scores off the dribble, whether it's getting to the rim or shooting threes. That is an NBA skill set. He does still have that.
Long season, man. He had a big spurt, which was awesome, but that's a long season. So that's going to be an interesting watch to see how he develops. I think he can, too. I'm with you. That'll be interesting to see. That's our drive around the SEC. Get into a couple of phone calls and our start bench drop of Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal coming up. All right, final few minutes of our Thursday show. Jay and Elijah with you. Let's jump on the phones before we give you our start bench drop. Nathan wants to give us his. Nathan, how you doing, bud?
Doing good, guys. This was one I had to put my thinking cap on for a second. All three are obviously legendary at their position, but I got to go with Mr. Fundamental, number one, Tim Duncan. He was just so good in the paint. Olajuwon is my bench. And I got to put Shaq as my drop. If you can't make a free throw in the NBA, you can't be a starter. So I got to put the Diesel as my drop. But
love the rationale.
Yeah,
the gap between Duncan and Olajuwon wasn't very big, but I got to go with Mr. Fundamental as my starter.
I hear you. Good stuff. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. We'll give you ours here real quick.
Spoiler alert, mine might look just like Nathan's.
I like his reason. Mine does not, but it's close. I am starting Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. I truly believe that Hakeem is not just one of the great bigs of all time. I think he's one of the best basketball players of all time. He just he was just fantastic to watch. He was so good at what he did. And I'm like you, Nathan, just in the reverse when it comes to how close the separation is, because I have such a reverence for Tim Duncan. I just watching him, he had nothing flashy ever, always a quiet individual, but made everybody around him better, won 5 championships, did good things at Wake Forest as well. I put Tim Duncan on my bench. And, yeah, I look, Shaq was awesome. That's why this is a hard one here. But I'm with you. Shaq, I mean, how many more points would Shaq have scored if he could have just been a 65% free throw shooter?
He was like a career 25-point-per-game player, despite having a few years where he didn't average 10 because he was carting around what's left of his body playing for the Suns and Celtics.
Yeah, but couldn't make free throws, and that's part of it when the Hack-a-Shack thing. He didn't like it, but so I'm starting Hakeem. I'm benching Tim Duncan, and I drop Shaquille O'Neal.
We're both dropping Shaq, but I'm starting Tim Duncan. And as much as I love Shaq, honestly, in terms of, if you look at the peak of these players, out of all three, he had the best offensive peak.
Fair.
He's the only one of these guys to win a scoring title. And he is definitely, I think, I've highlighted like their best seasons, right? And if you look at just the best seasons, Shaq is at least 2 points better per game, at least a rebound or 2 better per game, and even averaged 3.7 assists in his MVP season, and was a very efficient type shooter, almost 60% effective field goal shooting, which is really impressive. But when it comes down to it, you're looking at Duncan and Olajuwon that have a combined 24 all-defensive team appearance between them, with Tim having 15 of those. Those two guys were just much better defenders and passers of the ball throughout their entire career. I value guys who can play two ways and who can make other players
more complete.
Better.
I like that.
And I think those two are just more complete. And when it comes down to just differentiating between Tim and Hakeem, I think the ability to just run your entire franchise through that guy and making so many other players better gives me the edge for Tim. I think Tim Duncan is genuinely one of the 5 or 6 best players in the history of basketball.
Yeah, you saw the gleam in my eye when Coach Paris started Hakeem.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got that validation.
Yeah, I was like, all right. As a basketball coach saying and again, maybe there's a little sentimental there. I did see Shaq play in college, not in the NBA, but I'm telling you, my first ever NBA game was Rockets at Hornets when I was in high school. I've said it earlier today. I've said it before, but I was
Hakeem's just larger than life.
I'm watching Hakeem play basketball, and it was cool.
That's special.
It was cool. Brian, please call us back tomorrow with your comment and question. I'm sorry we couldn't get to you, but time was not our friend here at the end of the show. Thanks to Judge Casey Manning. Thanks to Coach Lamont Paris, and to all of you. For Elijah, I'm Jay. We'll see you tomorrow.